Hello, I am Brently, and the show that you are listening to is called Unapologetics. I'm, going through a little bit of changes here. We're doing a little bit of rebranding. I wanted to make a show a bit more about like actual apologetics and counter apologetics and whatnot like that. Now we will still, have episodes. I'm sure from here or there that where it's like the old classic episodes, just about what's going on in the world and how we feel about it. But until then, in between those episodes, I'd like to do just kind of solo episodes about apologetics. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I got some really great series like ready to go, and some of you involve true crime, and I know a lot of people are into that, and so am I. I actually am quite fascinated by true crime. But yeah. So, and what and I hope you're doing all right, everybody. I hope if you're driving or you're working or sweating or whatever you're doing. I hope you're having fun doing it and having a good time. The theme of this episode, I want to say, is it's not normal. It's not normal. As someone who was raised in the church, heavily indoctrinated, and even homeschooled to complete the societal bubble, I heard about blood sacrifice so frequently that it was a normal part of my week. Fuck, it was the normal part of my day. I was at church Monday through Monday. My free time was the time I spent working at church, Bible studies, leading worship, attending pastor classes, you name it, I was doing it. But because it's a belief based on nothing but gut feelings, those gut feelings can shift. For other people, no matter how little factual evidence there is in a single instant. Why I thought that would never happen to me is beyond me now, looking back. I mean, I can move up without being good at literally anything. And I'm like, this is awesome. God is so good. And then I'm like, oh, wait, the same kind of bullshit believing can backfire? Well, I'll be. I had a friend who drank a beer with his father before he was 21. He was 18 years old, and he was getting ready to go to the military. And he went to his dad and was like, hey, I'd really like to be able to have a drink, right? And his dad was like, if you're old enough to get shot at, then you're old enough to have a fucking beer, And so he did. Well, some people from the church found out about it. And because he was in our band, I was in a band, a Christian rock band that led a lot of worship, and we also had a rock band that we would just play at other churches and do regular rock shows. They said, and I fucking quote, that we were all involved in alcohol. What the fuck ever that means. Like, I don't know what involved in alcohol. Sounds like I was working for fucking organized crime or something. Like, like I'm the Dukes of Hazzard. Like I'm fucking delivering homemade alcohol or some shit. Or I'm the main character of a Grand Theft Auto game, but like for realsies. But hey, this is a group of people that collectively believe that a talking snake tricked a woman made of a rib into eating a magical fruit, and that's why hurricanes kill innocent people. Expecting rational thought out of this group is asking for far too much, even from within inside the bubble. How do you reason with people that don't value reason? How can you be more convincing than a crazy religious person's pastor or teacher? They will always just take what you say, you or I say, and run back to their pastor and get a bullshit apologetic. That's why I want to focus not only on pointing out that what they think is fucking weird, but also that it's backed up by apologetic arguments that are ridiculously poor. If a religious person hears your well-reasoned response to a bad apologetic and their pastor repeats the garbage apologetic you already dismantled, they have to end up with at least a little pause, right? This is from crossexamined.com. Cross-examined, with two S's. So here, we need to know, of course, like what they think on the other side of this debate, right? So let's see what they're telling themselves, right? Let's see what the Christians are saying on their side, right? What is a Christian, or what is Christian apologetics? Why would anyone, or why should anyone become a Christian? Why should anyone place their faith in Jesus Christ, a man who lived over 2,000 years ago? There have certainly been various and sundry answers to this question throughout this history of Christianity. Christian apologetics is both the science and art of answering this question by using reasons and evidence. That's what they believe. This is them saying why, they think what they think, right? I don't know where, as far as science, like what the fuck are they talking about? Like just about all of the science says exactly the opposite of everything that they'd like to believe is true. Anyway, the word apologetics first appears in the New Testament in 1 Peter 3:15, where the Apostle Peter addressed early Christians in Asia Minor, a Roman province, who were suffering persecution because of their faith in Christ. God. So that doesn't happen anymore. But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you will be blessed. Have no fear of them, nor be troubled. But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense, apologia, in parentheses, to anyone who asks you for a reason, logos, in parentheses, the Greek word, for the hope that is within you, yet do it with gentleness and respect. Wow, that's something that the modern day Trumpian Christians do not, they do not live in accordance to that little section, that's for sure. Within this one verse, Christian apologetics is summarized nicely. Christian apologetics can be summarized in two parts. First of all, it's an objective, because it starts with a vowel anyway. An objective reasons and evidence that Christianity is true. And look at this. And in this part they put in parentheses, it corresponds with reality. Like they have to like, I don't know what the word true means. I think we need some brackets to fix this, because I don't know what true means. It corresponds with reality. And B, the communication of that truth to the world. Jeez, wow, this is just insane. The objective evidence that Christianity is true. First of all, like just saying that it's objective evidence, like already just tells me that you don't really understand what the word objective means. You can try to be objective. You can't really be objective. Everybody has a bias, and that's what critical thinking is all about. And that's exactly what they try to avoid, like the fucking plague. The earliest Christian believers were Jews, and so ironically, the earliest Christian apologists were Jews. As they shared their new faith in Christ to their Jewish families and their friends, they appealed primarily to the Old Testament and to Jesus' bodily resurrection as the primary reasons for belief in Christ. They said, I feel like the only place that uses the word Jews more than this like little section is like Stormfront or something. This is insane. Anyway, today in the 21st century, Christian apologists must contend with such philosophies and ideologies such as naturalism, atheism, pantheism, and postmodernism. At crossexamined.org, we employ a classical apologetic approach in defending Christianity that is summarized here. So, classical apologetic approach, a simple outline. Truth exists. Objective reality can be known. I mean, you're already, I don't even know if that's, you'd have to demonstrate that that's the case, and I don't know how you do that. God exists. Classical arguments for God's existence, including the cosmological argument, the teleological argument, and the moral argument. So the cosmological argument is basically how everything began. what caused the universe to come into existence. The teleological argument is the argument from design. Things appear to be designed or, have some look like they, are designed, and that's the teleological arguments, which I almost honestly, if we're looking at arguments and whatnot, I think that the teleological argument is at least the most honest on their side. They're just like, I don't know, look at the fucking trees, man. Like, that's pretty crazy. Like, at least that's an honest argument, and then the moral argument, which the moral argument is just insane, 'cause especially if you're looking at their book. Oh my god, like, it is so, their book is so immoral, it's unbelievable. And then they want to sit there and be like, oh no, God has to exist because how else would we have morality? And it's like, look at the morality in your book, it has fucking slavery in there, man. Like, says to murder your child if they talk back or get drunk. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, morality? Anyway, miracles are possible. This is another claim that they're making within this, the universe. So this is really weird. Okay, it says miracles are possible. This is, again, is from crossexamine.org. Miracles are possible. And then in parentheses it says, the universe is not a closed system. What the fuck? Like, would miracles not be possible if it was a closed system? Like, I don't even understand how those two things are relevant to one another. It's really fucking weird. The New Testament is historically reliable, and then in parentheses it says manuscript evidence and archaeology, which we know for a fact that there's very little that they that extra biblical evidence for the Bible being true. Like, most of the evidence that they try to present is like, hey, this place existed. Like, I went over a video. It's like, I'm going to put it up to the patrons, and it's basically just like, this is how we know that the Bible is true. And it's a lot of Old Testament and just saying like, hey, we didn't think this king existed that was mentioned in the Bible. Oh, and then we found this archaeology that says this king existed, and that's like the majority. That and cities existed, which is, really kind of dumb, because every single one of the characters that they said were political characters. So there would be characters that, people would know about when they were writing these manuscripts. Anyway, on a bit of a fucking tangent there. Jesus has risen from the dead, hence Jesus is God, like, in parentheses. So, and that's one that has the least amount of evidence for that conclusion. I mean, there's no evidence that Jesus rose from the dead. We barely have any evidence that he died in the first place. But anyway, the most evidence that they have is an empty tomb. And, from 2,000 years ago, and a bunch of people saying that, a dude came back to life. Anyway, the communication that Christianity is true, and in parentheses, they love parentheses, holy shit, and should be believed. Parentheses, like, you don't need to. Anyway, the Apostle Paul was also Jewish, and they are really obsessed with this. The Apostle Paul was also Jewish and appealing primarily to his fellow Jews to believe in Christ, but he also appealed to non-Jewish Gentiles, Romans, and Greeks as well. When he visited Athens, he reasoned with Epicurean and Stoic philosophers on Mars Hill, the center of ancient Greek philosophy, in Acts 17, 16 through 34. I did not, I don't remember that happening. I'll have to look that up. While there, Paul quoted Greek philosophers such as Epimenides. In doing so, Paul was contextualizing the gospel so that it could be understood by his listeners. Okay, yeah, it's sort of what talking is all about, This is the second critical part of Christian apologetics: effective communication. Okay. To a particular audience. I don't know what that means, but so let me take a look at that verse where you were just talking. Let me read that. So this is from the NIV, I like to go to blueletter.com. I feel like they have like it's a pretty good resource. It has like the different translations, and it also has, if you want to look up a particular word, you can do that in Greek or in whatnot, in Hebrew and stuff like that. So this is Acts 17, verse 16. While Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he was greatly distressed to see that the city was full of idols. It took me a second. I thought it said full of idiots for a second. But anyway, he's greatly distressed to see that the city was full of idols. So he reasoned in the synagogue with both Jews and God-fearing Greeks, as well as in the marketplace day by day with those who happened to be there. A group of Epicurean and Stoic philosophers began to debate with him. Some of them asked, "What is this babbler trying to say?" Others remarked, "He seems to be advocating for foreign gods." They said this because Paul was preaching the good news about Jesus and the resurrection. Then they took him and brought him to a meeting of the Areopagus, where they said to him, "May we know what this new teaching is that you are presenting? You are bringing some strange ideas to our ears, and we would like to know what they mean." All the Athenians and foreigners who lived there spent their time doing nothing but talking about and listening to the latest ideas. Paul then stood up in the meeting and Areopagus, or a meeting of Areopagus, and said, "People of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, 'To an unknown God.' So you are ignorant of the very thing you worship. And this is what I am going to proclaim to you." I mean, at least he said that I'm going to proclaim it because at least they were honest about, not knowing how everything got there. And they're just saying, hey, we just worship whatever might have made whatever. At least they're fucking honest. The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth, and does not live in temples built by human hands. I mean, if God's everywhere, then he would be in the temples too that were built by human hands. Anyway, he is not served by human hands as if he needed anything. Rather, he himself gives everyone life and breath and everything else. Then what the fuck? See, listen right here. They're like, oh, God doesn't need anything. But then he needs your money? Like, what are you talking? Like, you have to give money to your church because of tithing. And tithing is biblical. It's in the Bible, So why is it that he doesn't need anything and then also needs something? It violates the logical law of non-contradiction. Just like right out the gate. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, anyway, I'm backing back out of this, but I am going to keep this Blue Letter Bible open if we come across any more Bible verses from the Cross-Examined website. So now they continue. This is from crossexamined.org. In 1 Corinthians 9:20 through 23, Paul writes, "To the Jews I become like a Jew in order to win Jews." Holy shit. "To those under the law I become as one under the law, though not myself being under the law." Okay. "That I might win those under the law." What the fuck? So basically, it's just saying I lie to everybody. That's like, I just become whatever somebody wants, would be convinced by, and then I try to convince them of things. That's basically what he's just saying right here. "To those outside the law, I became as one outside the law." Yeah, he's basically saying I just lie to everybody. I just am whatever they, would listen to more and pretend to be that. And, it says, "To the weak, I become weak, that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all people, that by all means I might have I might save some. I do it all for the sake of the gospel, that I may share with them in its blessings. So, like, he's basically saying that he lies. Like, it's crazy that, you can have something, like, in this book, right, that says, do not lie, right? That's literally one of the 10 fucking commandments, is do not lie. But then you also have parts like this, where you're sitting there saying, oh, but go ahead and lie as long as the ends justify the means, If you can get some people in heaven, go ahead and lie. Pretend to be whatever they're into to get, them to, be convinced of your religion being true. It's just so fucking dishonest, and it's blatantly dishonest, and yet there's like known as the honest people because that's a good Christian thing to do, is be honest. It says the gospel must be clearly communicated and understood in order for it to be believed. Yeah, no shit. Each new generation of Christians must communicate and defend the Christian message in milieu or social and cultural context in which it finds itself. The culture will change over time, but the core Christian message never changes. It absolutely does, though. I mean, look at the Trump Christians right now. I'm pretty sure the core message of Christianity is now just guns, gods, or guns, God, and babies. I think it's like, according to like the Christian politicians. Christian apologetics seeks to build bridges to unbelievers by presenting reasons and evidence that Christianity is true, rational, and worthy of belief. Good luck with that. The late 20th century Christian apologist Francis A. Schaeffer saw Christian apologetics as pre-evangelism, a way to prepare the mind and heart for the Christian message, the gospel, in quotes, or in brackets. The connection of apologetics with evangelism is best summarized by Oxford theologian Alistair E. McGrath. Christian apologetics represents the serious and sustained engagement with ultimate questions raised by culture, people, group, or individual, aiming to show how the Christian faith is able to provide meaningful answers to such questions. Where is God in the suffering of the world? Is faith in God reasonable? Apologetics clears the ground for evangelism, just as John the Baptist prepared the way for the coming of Jesus of Nazareth. Evangelism issues a personal invitation. You are invited to the feast. Please come. Apologetics lays the ground for this invitation. Evangelism extends it. Both are an essential part of the mission of the church. Mere apologetics, how to help seekers and skeptics find faith. The funny thing about that quote is that, while they are sitting here saying that they do want to answer these questions, such as, where is God in the suffering of the world, and is faith in God reasonable, they don't actually want those questions answered. Because the answer is, A, nowhere. Because God does, if you observed the world as if a God didn't exist, it'd be completely indistinguishable from a world where their God does exist with all the suffering in the world. You see what I'm saying? Like it's indistinguishable from a God not existing, their God's existence, which means it probably doesn't exist. Is faith in God reasonable? No, it's just not. They can try to make up every little, way to justify the unjustifiable. But no, it's not reasonable. Not unless you have a completely different concept of what the word reasonable means. But reason is an actual thing. It's based on logic. And it actually, you actually need good reasons to think things. That's what reason is all about. You need actual evidence and good argumentation to believe X, whatever it might be. Believing that an invisible, carpenter that came back to life 2,000 years ago lives inside a bunch of people is not reasonable to believe. I'm sorry, it's just fucking not. So let's check out
Does God exist?
their apologetic
Or is the
video.
material universe all that is, or ever was, or ever will be? One approach to answering this question is the cosmological argument. It goes like this. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause.
No God mentioned
Is the
whatsoever.
first premise true? Let's consider. Believing that something can pop into existence without a cause is more of a stretch than believing in magic. At least with magic, you've got a hat and a magician. And if something can come into being...
Yet they believe their God did that. I just want to always point that out. Like, this is the thing about logic, right? It's supposed to be it's like law, or it's supposed to be like law. Or I guess law is supposed to be like logic, even though it's not. It's supposed to be evenly applied to both sides of the argument. So if they're making an argument against what we're saying, basically saying that things can't pop into existence is basically what they're saying. But then they turn around and go, "Oh, but my God popped everything into existence." Like that's how that's how inconsistent logically they are, and they don't even fucking understand it. Well, let's keep going.
Being from nothing, then why don't we see this happening all the time? No. Everyday experience and scientific evidence.
We do. We see planets and things like we see all sorts of things like coming into existence all the time. What are you talking about? Babies are born, like everything's coming into existence. Not to mention if you get down to like a quantum level, things do come in and out of existence. As for the best I can tell, it's like almost like the environment that we have on this planet, just like it requires things to come into existence. That's just the way the natural laws of the universe function, and yeah, it's just that's just the way it works.
Evidence confirm our first premise. If something begins to exist, it must have a cause. But what about our second premise?
And I would agree with that. I mean, if for something to come into existence, it must have a cause, right? But again, none of this gets you to what they're trying to say it gets you to, which is that their God exists. Now, you notice that they did the kalam version, which is the everything that begins to exist has a cause for its existence, because if you simply turn around and go, what about your God? They go, oh, yeah, well, he just never did begin to exist. So, fuck, that's the whole argument, isn't it? Damn. No, just your stuff. It needs causes for its existence. Not our thing. Okay, our thing is special. And that's why it's called special pleading.
Did the universe begin? Or has it always existed? Atheists have typically said that the universe has been here forever.
We don't know. I don't necessarily say that it has been here forever. But I don't know, and I don't know how you'd prove that it wasn't. So, I mean, and people say that, everything came into existence during the Big Bang, right? But and things like time, like, oh, time came into existence. No, when people say that, they don't really understand what's being said there. When they say time came into existence, it doesn't mean like actual time. Like there was everything was stuck in 0 seconds until all of a sudden time was capable of moving forward. That's not what they mean. Basically, what they're saying is all the things that are required for us to measure time didn't exist before the Big Bang, right? So in the Big Bang, or in the form that they are, or after the Big Bang anyway, because like the more that we're studying, it seems that the universe did exist before the Big Bang. It just was in a different form. And in the form that it was in before the Big Bang was a form where we couldn't, determine time at all, because time requires the sun and requires a lot of things for us to be able to measure time. So just a little quick aside on that. But anyway.
The universe is just there, and that's all. First, let's consider the second law of thermodynamics.
Oh, they love this one.
It tells us the universe is slowly running out of usable energy. And that's the point. If the universe had been here forever, it would have run out of usable energy by now. The second law points us to a universe
again,
that has...
I don't know how they know that. They're just saying things. The answer is no. How do you know that that's the case? What if there was a certain type of energy that could be, I don't know, like was infinite up until a certain time, and then starting because what they're trying to say is that if we go infinitely back in time, right, that means that you couldn't ever possibly arrive at now, right? Because it would back in time would go. But really, what they're doing is they're just fucking around with the incalculability of infinity. That's all they're doing. They're just playing around this game. It's like infinity is means what it means, which is it goes on forever, right? And because our brains can't really calculate that in any way, shape, or form, they can make little weird arguments like this, where they're saying like if you go backwards infinity, you'd never arrive at today because it would continuously go back in time, and but it's just but the answer to that is actually you could take two points, right? Point A and point B, and it's a straight line, right? And then you could divide that in half in an infinite amount of times, okay? So you can actually have infinity within 2 points, because it's a fucking abstract concept that's very difficult for our brains to be able to understand. It's the problem with their the Grim Reaper fallacy, or whatever it is. It doesn't actually make any sense. What it does is it just plays around with the incalculability of infinity.
It's a definite beginning. This is further confirmed by a series of remarkable scientific discoveries. In 1915, Albert Einstein presented his general theory of relativity. This allowed us, for the first time, to talk meaningfully about the past history of the universe. Next, Alexander Friedmann and George Lemaitre, each working with Einstein's equations, predicted that the universe is expanding. Then in 1929, Edwin Hubble measured the red shift in light from distant galaxies. This empirical evidence confirmed not only that the universe is expanding, but that it sprang into being from a single point in the finite past. It was a monumental discovery.
And again, it didn't spring into being. It changed forms. Like, as far as we can tell, we don't know, actually. Let me rephrase that. We don't actually know, but it looks to be the case that it changed forms. It was in a quantum state, which was very small and compact. Some type of something happened that caused the different caused it to expand. We don't know what exactly caused it to expand, but something clearly caused it to expand, and that's where you get the Big Bang, and that's what they're talking about here. But it didn't just pop into existence. It did exist before the Big Bang. It just was in a form, the best we can tell anyway, lately, that was quite different and very small, more of a quantum size, like very, very small type of condensed universe.
Almost beyond comprehension. However, not everyone is fond of a finite universe, so it wasn't long before alternative models popped into existence. But one by one, these models failed to stand the test of time. More recently, 3 leading cosmologists, Arvin Bort, Alan Guth, and Alexander Vilenkin prove that any universe which has on average been expanding throughout its history cannot be eternal in the past, but must have an absolute beginning.
Okay, and again, I don't know how they could demonstrate that, how they know that, other than just through a logical argument of playing around with the incalculability of infinity. But, that's it. It's just playing around with things that we just don't understand, that our brains can't really comprehend, and then acting as though we know about them. We're doing our best when it comes to cosmology. Like we're doing our best, and some of these theories are quite compelling, but it's not like the theory of gravity. Okay, we don't have as much evidence to work with when it comes to billions of years ago, trying to determine how the universe functioned and how it went from being in a quantum state to a much larger state. What causing the Big Bang? We don't know. Okay, that's the answer to these questions. Is you don't know. We don't know. It's untestable, hypothetical science. Like we don't know, and it's okay to say I don't know. It's not okay to pretend that you do know when you don't. Okay, and you can say the scientists that claim to know, don't know, right? But that doesn't prove that what you're saying, which is that your God created it, is actually true. That's not, you can say that they are wrong, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are right. That is a fallacy.
This even applies to the multiverse, if there is such a thing. This means that scientists can no longer hide behind a past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning. Any adequate model must have a beginning, just like the standard model. It's quite plausible then.
But we don't know that. Like, we don't, that's what I'm saying. It could have just kept changing forms for, like, infinity in the past. Like, we don't know, that I have no idea, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know what we don't know. So, these guys, they're very smart guys. I'm not saying that they're not, but I think that they're just making an all-out claim like that, like, oh no, it had to have come into existence. I just, I don't know how you prove something like that, and I've never seen it proved before or heard it. I've heard some semi-decent arguments, but at the end of the day, the most reasonable thing to do is say, I don't know, because that's the truth. And these folks don't actually know. They have some good ideas, but they can't prove that those ideas are actually true.
That both premises of the argument are true. This means that the conclusion is also true. The universe has a cause. And since the universe can't cause itself, its cause must be beyond the space-time universe.
That's a claim you'd have to demonstrate. I don't know how you could demonstrate that's the case. Like, so you're saying that nothing from within the universe can cause the universe. What about just the natural laws of the universe? Like, they can't cause the universe? And again, also, it changed forms, right? So whatever, existed before it changed forms could have caused its existence. Again, now, all of this is untestable science. Like, we have no way of being able to determine this with any kind of conclusivity. It doesn't. We just can't. It's fun to think about, and it's always interesting to hear different arguments and different theories that they have on in cosmology. But at the end of the day, we really don't have a whole lot to work with as far as being able to demonstrate that what we believe to be the case is actually the case.
Spaceless, timeless, immaterial, uncaused, and unimaginably powerful. Much like...
Okay, so they said it has to be spaceless, timeless, immaterial, and uncaused. How do you demonstrate that something like that is even possible, let alone that it is real and did create all of this stuff? I don't even know how do you have something that's spaceless and timeless? It means it's something that doesn't exist. It takes up zero space, and it exists within 0 seconds. That's two of those things are logically impossible. Like it doesn't even make sense. Immaterial means that, again, it doesn't exist within space or time and is not made of anything, which again doesn't make any sense, and is uncaused. You're saying that all of these things have to be caused, the universe had to be caused, but yet here your thing that you're saying doesn't exist in any space, doesn't exist within any time, and isn't made of any type of material, is also somehow uncaused. Give me a fucking break. You might as well say it's a goddamn, universe farting unicorn, that flies through the galaxy. Like, it's just, you might as well just say that. If you can say all this shit and expect it to be believed, then yeah, I'd much rather believe in a universe farting giant unicorn.
God.
That was it.
The cosmological argument shows that, in fact, it is quite reasonable to believe that God does exist.
It doesn't, though. God isn't even in the argument. And that's it. That's the end of the video. Wow. Okay. So, I just wanted... So that's the very first of, the arguments. And you're always going to start there. That's where people are going to tend to go first, is the cosmological argument. Because it is, because as a human, with a human brain, we really do not like to say that I don't know something. And having something as, as large of a question as why are we here, and where did we all come from? Why are we capable of experiencing the world? Why, just why? It kind of makes your brain uncomfortable, and it's actually more comfortable to just make up an answer. You're like, oh, because the God that my parents believed in did it. Then you don't have to think about that stuff, right? Then you don't have to go, I don't know, and have that sort of like discomfort mentally of not being able to answer a question when your brain clearly wants to come to conclusions about things. That's literally what it does. But that is not a good answer. I don't think. I don't find that convincing at all. The only way I could see that being convincing was to me, like when it was convincing, which is when I already believed a thing that, again, I was taught as a child and raised believing. And then this is sort of just backing up that argument. It's starting with your conclusion and then walking backwards to try to justify it. That's the only way that this argument, I would say, is reasonable, is if you already have a belief that you'd like to believe is true and you're just trying to justify it. And just look at how much work they had to do to go through saying that, it actually is normal to believe that a 2,000-year-old zombie carpenter ghost lives inside of all of us, because you don't know how the universe started. That's literally their argument here so far, is, everything has to come into existence for a reason. That means it's got to be a 2,000-year-old zombie carpenter ghost, because a book said that in the beginning the Word was with God and the Word was God. And clearly the Word means God, means Jesus, guys. That's how, and this, I'm not even joking. This is what I've heard as far as that argument. They say that people use words to talk, right? Like we use words to talk to one another, right? And God used Jesus to tell us how much he loves us. That's why Jesus is the Word in that verse. In the beginning, the Word was with God and the Word was God. That's the type of leaps that these people will fucking make in order to, come to the conclusion or justify the conclusions that they've already come to because they were taught, that these conclusions were true as children. And that's it. So, so that's kind of part one of this series. They're gonna be shorter episodes, but we're gonna be walking through a lot of apologetics. I'm sure we'll come back to the cosmological argument more frequently. I'm probably gonna do a part two to the cosmological argument, but this is just kind of a good jumping off place, Remember, it's not normal to believe in blood sacrifice. It's not normal to wave your hands in the sky and believe that you are feeling some supernatural being, coming through your hands or whatever. It is not normal, okay, to shake and fall on the ground and believe that you're being baptized in the Holy Spirit. It is not normal. That is the, and they went through all of that to basically try to prove that what they already believed from, as early as they could think, and have object permanence, and they were taught these things, they have to go through all of this in order to justify that what they believe and what they were taught as children is normal. It's not normal. All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next week. And remember, it's not normal. Make sure to like and subscribe, and if you want to email the show, you can email us at unapologetics, spelled like the show, 666@gmail.com. Hit us up. Let us know how we do, if you like the new format. And, stay out there. Stay progressive. Stay fighting the good fight.